Yo, what's going on, Nomads and Drifting Podcast listeners? I'm Brian.
And I'm Monica.
Welcome to the Backspace Nomads Podcast, where we share our nerd for gaming, movies, and all the dork in between. It's September 16th. This is episode 74 of the podcast. And the question of the week: do you smell your video games? So, Monica, you kind of brought this one up to me. Usually we have a intellectual question that takes us on the, deep into the mind of what it's like to be a gamer. But you brought this one to me from Kotaku.
Yeah, it was a question that they threw out there. It was just a weird little article. I think it digs into the mind or nose of the gamer.
The
Yeah.
nose, Monica.
Yeah, it does. So there are people out there that like to have more sensory experiences than just touch and visual.
Are there now?
Like there are, believe it or not. And some of these people are people who may or may not smell their video games. As in, like you crack open your little DVD holder and you just take a deep whiff. Brian, do you do that? Do you smell your video games?
Yes, Monica. Obviously, I smell my video games. There's nothing better than the smell of something new because no one has ever opened that thing except for the factory worker who they themselves had to wear a white protective suit to even put it into the case. There's such a good smell. I don't think I was ready to out myself as a video game sniffer. Do you smell your video games?
Wait, you really do?
I mean, I don't get satisfaction from it, but I do kind of like, oh, that's nice.
I swear to God, I thought you were going to say no, especially because of how you're laughing. Fuck yeah, I smell my video games. Well, and not only that, I like to imagine that factory worker did a little crop dusty in there,
No.
Like, what, is this going to be a special treat? No, I'm just kidding. I actually love the smell of books and paper and like a bunch of things like that. I don't really smell my consoles or anything, but no, absolutely. And I don't think I do it every single time, but anytime I first buy a game, I definitely take a little whiff.
Well, see, I totally, when you brought this up to me, I initially thought no, I don't smell my video games. I don't know if you triggered this in me, or what, but I went to the store. Normally I play all PC games. I just download them, right? So I've been deprived of this pleasure for so long, but I went and bought Spider-Man last week, and I got into my car and I was sitting there and I was like, do I wait to get home to open it or do I do it right here? And sure enough, I opened in the car and I was just looking at the CD because I haven't looked at a CD in forever. And I made sure no one was looking. And I took a little sniff of it because I actually love it. The smell of a brand new CD. It is too good.
Yeah. It's not the thing that's a little bit different with it is that most of the time they all kind of smell the same. Like I feel like books and paper can have different smells.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time games tend to smell the same, but it's still new. Eventually it's gonna be old. It's not gonna have that same scent. And it's fresh. It's like a little, how puppies and stuff always have a new puppy smell,
Yeah.
That's your video game, you gotta appreciate that newness while it lasts, because eventually it's just gonna smell stinky, like a stinky old dog.
I like to think that the factories that they make this stuff in, they all just smell that good, and that's why they put them in their protective suits, because no one would ever get any work done. They would all just be sitting there smelling CDs all day long, so they have to wear this suit. I don't know if that's real or not. But...
all right. No, but it sounds like an episode on a cartoon or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So let us know, Nomads. Do you guys smell your video games when they're brand new or not, or do you wait until they're old before you give them?
And think about this, but think about this too, because your initial reaction is no, I don't do that. But a lot of times people smell things and it's just you don't even think about it.
Mm-hmm.
You just grab something, you look at it, you feel it, and then you smell it, and you don't put any thought into it. So you got to really think. It's not just, do you smell your video games? It's, do you smell your video games? Two of
Please
you, though.
let us know. We'd like to get more personal with you.
Yeah.
Speaking of new things, the latest release in this month, probably like there's only two big releases this month. Spider-Man came out last week. This week,
Yep.
Monica, Tomb Raider, The
Tomb
Shadow of
Raider.
Tomb Raider came out. The third installment in the reimagining of the Lara Croft series, Tomb Raider. What do you think about the Tomb Raider in this latest release? How's it working for you?
So I felt kind of so one of the things that the reimagining has done here is that the scenery in all of these games is amazing.
Yeah.
But I had this weird feeling that the newest Tomb Raider, the graphics were not as good as the previous Rise of the
You
Tomb
are
Raider.
out of your mind. Have you seen?
No.
Did you see the opening cinematic? It's
Look,
legendary.
I'm talking about like your normal gameplay. It felt a little bit clunkier. She seemed to walk around like maybe her shoulder muscles had bulked up a little bit too much. Her face, it looked like maybe she's been investing in some proactive like face wash, and like it's just lots of Botox. It's very clear. It just looked it looked older to me. I don't know how to explain it.
Monica,
You disagree with me?
I do disagree with you. Is she walking around weirder? Yes. She's broken her shoulders a few times. She's out there raiding tombs. What do you think? She's a young lass now? Is her skin smoother? Yes. She's had like the dust of skeletons dusted upon her, all that protein from years of embalming and stuff. It's all making her skin look good. This is the best looking Tomb Raider we've had to date. The initial gameplay, like the scene, it opens up. Like she's riding in an airplane where the engines are giving out. She's sitting there with the dude who used to wear like the anal beads around his neck. And like they're in there, he's like, "There's no parachute," and like the plane splits apart. She's not an old looking Tomb Raider. This is the best you've ever seen, Monica. I don't know why you get so down on Tomb Raider and graphics like this. It's amazing.
I don't know. I looked at videos of the older ones, and I looked at this one, and I just swear to God that maybe my eyes are failing me. Maybe I've been sniffing too many DVDs. I don't know, but I feel like the graphics are not as good in this one. But the scenery, I felt the scenery was. I just felt that she didn't look as good. I'm sorry. You know what? I disagree with you. I think I'm right.
Not only are these graphics the best they've ever been, but like the cinematography in this game is like a movie. And it's not just the cutscenes. Like they're actually like having the close-ups when they want you to feel impact on the characters. But when you're moving through the actual gameplay, the ways they are creating these tombs and moving the camera while you move your character is just next. This is like the peak of the series. It's the third installment. It's like it's a well-oiled machine. They know it works. They know what makes the best impact for you emotionally, and they're like tugging on those strings the entire time. This thing is just absolutely gorgeous to look at and to like just feel through your eyeballs.
I think that is what makes Tomb Raider so exciting, is the fact that it does feel very, very similar to a movie setting. Even the characters, it feels like it plays like an action movie, and there is an element, and it kind of has to, because I feel like the story in these, it's fun, it's interesting, it's easy to follow along, but you're not, you're saving the world, but you're not really. It's kind of the emotions are a little trash. Like you just don't really get as invested into these characters as you would if this was like if you were playing a drama, right? But I think that they I think that with this this installment, the same thing goes for the story. They're trying to dig in a little bit more into who Lara is, but at this point, I'm just like, Lara, I know who she is. She's been doing Botox and making her face look like worse than the shot.
I just don't think you like her because she's out there living her best life, raiding these tombs, getting fancy treasures all over the place. How can you hate
You think I'm jealous?
Yeah, I do.
Oh.
I mean, wait till you listen to this back. You're going to hear the jealousy throughout your voice. It's disgusting. This game's amazing. The tombs are like I think the most exciting part about these games. And it's like I don't want to sound too dumb. And it's like the best thing about Tomb Raider are the tombs. We get it, right? But seriously, these are like the best puzzles they've ever put in the game. When you're in them, everything is like super really tense. It's almost like playing through a horror game. Everything's really smart, like the way you have to solve stuff. Like it's getting rough, dude. When you see Laura crawling through these spaces underwater, like seeing Laura Croft drowned in a
Mhm.
tomb because she went through a space that she just couldn't crawl through fast enough. Like you feel it in this game. And where I feel like of the previous games did a lot of like it was like very jarring, very shocking.
Yeah.
This is more of an emotional like, oh my god, she really just drowned. That's not so much jarring. It's like it like emotionally impacts you because like your fear of drowning. They're really going
Yeah.
deeper on this one.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. One good way to make sure that Laura doesn't die, though, and I've put this into practice within this franchise, is just by running away from as many things that can kill you as possible. Now, sometimes you have to do that in the game.
Yeah.
Other times, it's just just avoiding
Yeah.
the fights as a whole.
Sometimes you have to. I was reading a Kotaku article, is by Ethan Gatch, where it was talking about. I was interested because I played Dead Cells, right? And this article was about Dead Cells and how people are starting to speed run that game now. And the best way to speed run it, they found out, is actually because like you have to run away from the enemies. Like fighting the enemies is no good in this game. You have to run around. So like maybe you're onto something. Maybe your entire gaming career, you've been building up to this speed running moment that you don't know you're getting ready for. Like, this could be your calling.
I've been a natural speedrunner just because I just avoid the fights. The reality is the part of the reason why I'm avoiding these fights is they get repetitive.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of times the fighting mechanics in a game can get very, very repetitive unless you
Mhm.
start introducing like different types of weapons or whatever. And
Mhm.
in Tomb Raider in this series, I feel like the fighting does get pretty repetitive. It's fun. You get it can be exciting as you're learning the new moves. If you get sneak up on people and everything, that part of it's fun. But that's kind of really more my style, like the whole like Splinter Cell, like SOCOM.
Yeah.
Any type of game where I'm just trying to avoid getting a beating is the type of game for me.
Yeah.
I don't want to get a beating. I just want to avoid that. I want to sneak around and run away. And I don't know if that's the intention of a game like Tomb Raider, but there are plenty of other games like that. So with Dead Cells, you said like you did play a lot of Dead Cells. You really liked that game.
I love it.
How do you feel about that being a game where in order to get good at it, you have to run away from your enemies?
I don't think that applies to the spirit of the game. Beating a game is one thing, but the thing about a dungeon crawler or a procedural based one is like it is having to fight the enemies to get to the next area. The thing they don't punish you for in Dead Cells is leaving enemies alive. Where in like Binding of Isaac and stuff, the only way you open up the doors again is by clearing a room. You
Mhm.
can't get through this game just by like dashing past the enemy, dropping down on the floor, and just getting to the next exit. And I don't like speed running when it goes against the spirit of the game like that. There's one thing to be cheeky and like jump over this wall and get to the secret area. I don't like games where you're just trying to not fight people. I like fighting the enemies. I like how fast can you beat this? How fast can you clear this? I've been playing a lot of Spider-Man lately because I bought it and it smells fantastic. Let me tell you. Uh, but, like, the part I hate the most about it is when they want you to do stealthy stuff where, like, you're grappling people with your spider webs and pulling them up and wrapping them up on a beam, and, like, it's cool for, like, the first time, but, like, that's what you actually want me to do, not engage and fight? Uh,
Mhm.
why isn't your fighting fun enough to where you don't feel like you have to break it up as a developer? Like, God of War, I think, is a game that's always been like, here is a fighting sequence, and like you're just gonna be fight after fight after fight because it's so fun to use our fighting mechanic.
Yeah. But, God of War also changes up their weapons a lot
True.
too. So I think that that is an element where the newness of a weapon, the ability to try out different types of techniques, and if one starts getting stale, being able to adjust is really important. And Tomb Raider does have some of that. Um,
Mhm.
you do have different types of weapons and everything, but in general, I don't know why it's one of those games that just get in that gaming fight or flight, right? Like,
Yep.
are you going to fight? Are you feeling triggered? Are you going to fight? Or are you going to run away? I don't know. Maybe I'm just a little bit of a pansy, but I find myself starting to run away in more games unless I gotta fight. I'm not trying to clear everybody. It's like, you go live your life. You might be stealing some really important artifacts, but who am I to judge? I'm just going to go run to this way, hope you don't see me, and crawl into this little hole and continue on with my life.
You're so weak, Monica. Just fight him. You're a strong person. You're Laura Croft. Just pull out your AK-47 and shoot people. What are you doing? She has automatic weapons and crossbows. Like, what else does she need? She's got those little climbing tools. Like,
I don't know.
All right.
I don't know.
Monica, there is still a problem in gaming. And we've talked about this a few times. But we're going to talk about it again because there is new news. There's microtransaction tomfoolery going on around in the great country of Belgium. So last year,
it is a great country.
It is.
I don't know why I laughed that hard. I didn't laugh because
all of our Belgium listeners, all of you, just know that I am the host who loves you. Monica laughs at the notion of your greatness.
I do. I'm sorry. Belgium's cool. All right, let's continue.
So Belgium, right? Last year, they declared it illegal to have loot boxes inside of games. They say this is a form of gambling. And one thing they do not allow in Belgium is gambling targeted towards the youth. Companies like Blizzard have already taken steps to take loot boxes out of their games in this country. Overwatch is a notorious loot box game. You don't have loot boxes in Belgium if you're playing Overwatch. Sorry, you guys get the default skins, but they look nice. EA, also a company that was supposed to remove these loot boxes.
Well, do you think EA would have removed loot boxes from anything?
No. You know why? They're EA, and they haven't done it. And so now they're getting into hot water with Belgium. You know why they didn't do this, Monica? In EA's FIFA game alone, they have a card pack system called the Ultimate Team. And I don't know, I don't play FIFA. I don't know what the Ultimate Team means, but you open up a card pack, much like a loot box, and I'll let you take a guess at how much money this has net revenue yearly.
Yearly?
Yep. In this one game.
200 million.
200 million. I'm sorry, you're a little bit shy, Monica.
I'm sorry, 200. Yeah, no, 200 million.
Yeah, you're a little shy. It's $800 million. $800 million of net annual revenue for a FIFA card pack game. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
Who, first off, how many people are actually playing FIFA? I guess it's the most popular sport in the world, probably a lot. But $800 million dollars spent just opening these card packs, trying to get the ultimate soccer team so you can get Pele on the field with David Beckham. $800 million worth of that? That seems insane to me.
Yeah, they just keep that revenue generated, and in 10 years they could buy Belgium.
Oh, is that a shot at Belgium?
No.
It feels like a shot at Belgium.
No, it's not.
All right. I'm just going to tell you this right now. All of our Belgium listeners, Brian, am the host on this podcast who loves you, and I don't take shots at your gross GDP. I think you guys are fantastic, and you guys make a lot more money than that.
No. I can't win. I'm just going to stop talking.
That's the problem with loot boxes. You can't win, Monica. And that's not the only problem.
Oh my
here's
God.
my deal. I think sport fans are considered to be the suckers when it comes to microtransaction. Because EA obviously isn't going to stop doing this thing. There was another one. NBA 2K, not made by THQ, not, by the way, THQ kind of sounds like a drug in the first place. Not made by them, but EA. They are charging for haircuts inside of their NBA 2K series. That's not, hey, purchase a new hairstyle. Like, you want a fresh, fade tight to the head with a nice line down the middle. Cool, you can buy that. But then if you want to switch it to bald, we're going to charge you money. You want to put that same haircut back on your character? Guess what? We're going to charge you money again. They're charging you for haircuts in this game.
Well, and I'm pretty sure that they weren't, you're not even allowed to preview the haircut. You have to pay before you even get your haircut completed. That's not even how barbershops work.
Yeah, there's at least a wall mounted thing of like, here's a buzz cut. You're going to know what's going to happen with it. You
Yeah.
might look dumb, but the guy on the wall looks good with it.
Yeah, you at least get to look at some photos.
Yeah. This is insane to me. I've never heard of a company charging you for like a service, I guess. GTA is, they kind of, I think, launched the idea of customizing a character inside of like a barbershop, a tattoo shop. Um, you know, THQ apparently took it to the next level and was like, "Hey, we're actually gonna make you pay for this." I don't know who there apparently has to be people paying for this though because it's happening.
Yeah, there were people paying for it, but there was also an uproar about that in particular. And so 2K actually went in and said, "All right, you know what? We've heard you." And I feel like this is a great moment in history because this does not happen very often, right? Like
Mm-mm.
most of the time it's going to take a lawsuit. It's going to take Belgium suing EA in order to make sure that they remove it, you
Mhm.
know? But in this game, they did not only make the haircuts, I think, free.
Yeah.
Did they make them free? I'm pretty sure they made them free, but the barber now apologizes. So they owned it. They owned it. It's one of the very few instances I feel like I've ever seen where they actually put the apology not just on some Twitter post or anything, they actually put it in the game.
I don't like
I
this.
You don't.
I hate this.
Why?
Why are they pawning this off on some in-game NPC barber who's just out there trying to make a living for himself? Why don't they have a personalized letter from the CEO or game designer of NBA 2K pop up and say, or maybe a nice little video, a nice little clip, like, "Hey, we're sorry we charged you and that we're a bunch of jerks trying to make as much money as we could off of you. Now back to your barber, who's just a couple of pixels inside of a video game, and we're not going to personify him so you don't blame us directly." I don't like that at all. I think that's a cop out.
Oh, I thought it was a creative apology, but they still have plenty of other microtransactions in the game.
Like what?
So, I don't know. I guess it's riddled with them. I haven't
Ugh,
played it personally.
I can't stand where we are with microtransactions. The only people I feel like do it well and do it like the right way, and I'm not saying this because I'm a fanboy, but Fortnite. Um,
Oh, you're not saying this because you're a fanboy?
No, because here's my deal, right? They released a
Yeah,
free to play game. You could go in there and play this game and have just as much fun as me, um, without paying a cent, not even dropping a dime on this game. You just get in there, got your little
yeah,
default
that's true.
skin, running around having fun. But they are releasing, 2 to 3 new skins for characters every week. Like it is like skin after skin after skin comes out. New emotes are coming out. New pickaxes are coming out, and they release all this stuff. And they do, it costs a bit of money to buy this stuff. But unlike a company like Blizzard, where they put these all these new skins inside of a loot box, where you have to pay just to open up a loot box, it's like no, this is a skin. Buy it or don't.
Yeah,
uh, I don't think microtransactions will ever go away because of just how much money and they're like
it's
generating for people.
insane. It is
So,
insane.
like,
Yeah,
I think all companies have got to get to a place like Epic when it comes to this, where they're just like very upfront. Like, here's an add on, here's a bonus. It doesn't affect anything in the game. It's cosmetic. Pay for it or don't.
yeah. I'm concerned though. It is concerning. I do think that in general, gamers are fighting the good fight. You know, there are some small wins, but
Hmm.
I'm just imagining like imagine imagine Tomb Raider, but in order to like get a new weapon, you actually have to pay for it, you know?
Like real life.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I
I hope we don't end up there. And I think that the only way that we can make sure that certain, core elements of gameplay that's exciting,
mhm.
um, is we make sure that we're not going in that direction is by being vocal and continuing to give these publishers and creators a little taste of of our thoughts, a little sniff of our views.
I thought you were gonna say CDs. We definitely need to stop opening up our like wallets for these companies. That's the only way we're gonna get change. Like with this nonsense. Call of Duty just had like their, big beta weekend for their battle royale system, right? And to get access to the game a day early, you had to pre-purchase it. And I'm just thinking to myself, just have an open beta. Stop trying to drive up your, you know, pre-sales of this game just because people don't have impulse control.
Yeah.
And you know what, Monica? I bought the game, so now I had to ignore everyone else. I
Stop doing this to
stop
these
doing this.
people. These people. Me.
Me. All right, we're gonna take a break. When we come back, we're gonna be talking about iconic games, some of the best iconic weaponry inside of video games. Right back, episode 74, Backspace Nomads. Thank you for sitting through that break, Nomads. Coming back from the break, we're going to be talking about iconic video games. And we're going to start this off with this article Monica showed me. The 10 best iconic weapons in gaming. This is from redbull.com. Monica, what year is this that you're browsing redbull.com? What is this, just 2005 and you just got off from school? You don't know what to do on the internet? I know Red Bull. See if they have a website.
Look, I'm going to be traveling a lot soon, listeners. If you guys didn't know this, but I'm Backspace Nomads is actually going on the road, okay? And I got to start stocking up on things. And one way to do that is to start reaching out to companies and asking them for free shit. All right? And Red Bull just happens to also care about our gaming because they're extreme, okay?
Extreme.
And with this, with their care of our gaming, thank you, Red Bull. Appreciate that.
Are we sponsored by Red Bull?
No.
I thought I missed something.
But if you want to sponsor us,
I really thought I just missed something on this whole podcast.
They did give a pretty badass list of iconic weapons in games. I mean, this is the portal gun from Portal,
Ooh,
like like God of War. We were talking about God of War's like interchanging of weapons earlier, the Blades of Chaos, Tomb Raider's on there too.
Her pistols. They're like, you think Lara Croft, immediately you think her dual wielding pistols.
Yeah. Yeah. And then number 1 on the list is the Final Fantasy Buster Sword, which I really do think that's probably one of the most iconic weapons that I have. I would say that. I think that's a good number 1 spot.
I think Red Bull's right. I don't think you get bigger than Cloud's Buster Sword.
You can. You really can't.
No.
It's huge.
It's huge.
How does it work? I don't understand.
But it is like, if you ask me for a legendary, like an iconic gaming weapon, that dude's sword just comes to mind. Like, it is legendary. Every time I go to some like, comic book convention or something, there's like 20 different booths trying to sell me a Cloudbuster sword. Like, it's everywhere.
Yeah. I don't know how they're planning on selling them though. I mean, they're too damn big, It's impossible.
Yeah. And like, I think one of the most important things into making a good game is, is having a good weapon. If you're going to be a combat game, you need a weapon that stands out in people's mind.
Right.
Like, like Half-Life, they made a crowbar infamous. Like, how do you make a crowbar that famous, but like everyone knows a crowbar that's orange? It's like a Half-Life crowbar now.
Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of crazy. I guess in general though, when I was looking at this list, I started really feeling like, are these the reasons why these games were so popular? Because this is a popular list. You've got Dota 2, Rust with the rock. You just run around with the rock the entire game and you just hit people until you can fashion something better. Like these are really well-known weapons in gaming. And would these games have ever been as good if they didn't have the weaponry behind it? I don't know. So I guess what makes a game iconic? You know,
Uh,
is it the characters? Does it have to have a combination of character, weapon, assuming that it's a fight, some type of fighting game or
mhm.
combat game? You know, what do you think?
I think for a game to be iconic, right? You have to have things to pull back to. Like when you think about like Cloud's Burst Sword, the crowbar, Portal's gun. Like when you think about the game, you have to have anchor points in your mind of like things are over the top and like amazing. But I
Mhm.
think I think that's what becomes symbols of it being iconic. I think for a game to become iconic, they have to be breaking in the sense that like they're creating something new, they're forging their own path, or they're like filling a void for something that should be there, but just hasn't been done in a while. Like if you think about you know, shooter games, I think about personally GoldenEye. And that
Huh.
was the
Okay.
first FPS in 3D that had four-person shooters. And like, what's iconic about that? The golden gun. Everyone knows the golden gun from that game. Or the little short person, I can't think of his name with a bowler hat, and like just how that character was iconic and legendary in that thing.
Mhm.
So it's like they made something new, but then there are these little tiny symbols that when you get older and your brain kind of moves the furniture around, and what really was great about that game, there are like solidified points of like, oh, Odd Job, like the little guy Odd Job, like, oh man, you remember Billy just picked Odd Job all the time. He always be picked up the golden gun. Like those are iconic things that you can pull back to, and I think those symbols represent something. But I think you have to forge ahead and make something new to be iconic.
Yeah. You know, I agree with you. I also think that, if I were to have answered this question without looking at this list initially, my response would have been it's more so like the storyline or like the type of combat. I
Mhm.
wouldn't have specifically said it was an object or a symbol, but I actually, now thinking about it more, every single type of game that I've ever really liked, like I would say, Zelda, it, amazing, amazing. But you've got the slingshot and
Yeah,
you have like these core elements that were so fun and so unique at the time.
yeah,
And when I really think about that, there's always like maybe a particular character or a an object that was abnormally fun to play and felt fresh.
yeah, absolutely. Um, like when they bring up the portal gun in Portal, this is as an FPS shooter, are they doing like a brand new game type? No, it's a first person shooter, but they are reimagining the way that you can play a game. The
Hmm.
portal mechanic where you can go through one space and jump out on the other side and use that for puzzles. That was so huge, and that's why that game like is a legendary game that came out of nowhere because they made something brand new. um, for me, my personal, like, most iconic game of all time would probably be the Warcraft series. I don't know if that's kinda cheating to do a series, but, like, Warcraft,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Um, that is to me the most all-time iconic game ever. Immediately the thoughts the my mind goes to, like, the orcs. This,
Yeah.
like, certain tone of green with the teeth hanging out from the bottom, and, like, their arms are longer, than their kneecaps, you know what I mean? Like, it's like an orc, and they have the human knights. Um and they were able to carry that into like World of Warcraft from their RTS series. And
Hmm.
like everyone in the world, I think, knows what a World of Warcraft orc looks like because your kids would have played it, your cousins would have played it, your friends would have played it. Uh, and I just think it has become the most iconic series ever.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. Um,
Thank you.
I approve. I approve. I think if I had to consider the most iconic game, mine, I think I'd actually go with Halo.
Halo.
I would. I think
Okay.
it's so recognizable. The suits, the energy sword, which is on this list, but also just it kind of revitalized gaming in some sense at the time.
I'll
And
agree with that.
beyond that, it actually, there were so many spin-offs where, like they
Mm,
created stories around Halo characters and everything. I feel like there was such a wild obsession, not just with the game, not just with the game itself, but with the content in it. And people actually created based off of it. I don't feel like I've seen a lot of other games where the community actually created so many stories and characterizations
Yeah.
of a game that they enjoyed playing. And for that reason, I think it's actually one of, I mean, I I also considered Super Mario World, but I'm going with Halo mainly because I feel like not Super Mario World is probably more so around, my age, but Halo I think still carries into a younger audience.
Yeah, and I think you have really good points. Halo's a strong contender. I still to the day I can remember the beat, the sounds of Halo when like booting up to it, like like the ha ha ha, like all that stuff was just so good. I think like dads connected with their kids because this is like a military. They saw Master Chief and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's a badass. I could talk to my son about." And like like Brofist or son, like yeah, he's a man now. like
Yeah.
um, I'm actually a little bit jealous of you because you brought up Halo.
Are you?
I am. Um, do you have any games that like you think flew under the radar that you thought should have been iconic?
I do. I do. I had a game that I absolutely loved playing when I was a kid, and I'm still kind of shocked that it isn't a franchise today. And that is Earthworm Jim.
Earthworm Jim.
You were Earthworm Jim. You were an earthworm in a suit. You
Mhm.
had a whip. And I feel like Earthworm Jim had all the makeup of what it would should have taken in order to carry on. And I
Mhm.
don't quite understand why it hadn't happened. Maybe he's too quirky. Maybe he's too cartoony. But it was such a unique character,
Yeah.
so strange. And not only that, but the things that he said, there was like weird cows in the game. You're an earthworm and you're fighting like a cat,
Yeah.
and there's cows, and you say tender, tender. What is so tender? What are you talking about? That's a weird thing to say as you're whipping enemies. I don't quite understand it, but
Whipping
you
to the
are
left.
saying it, you know? Um, I felt like Earthworm Jim was such a quirky game, and it
Yeah.
and it should have carried on.
I remember Earthworm Jim being kind of huge at the time, right? But it definitely kind of faded away.
Yeah,
I know they tried to remake it, revitalize it, probably 8 years ago, and it didn't catch too much heat.
yeah.
I would say this kind of a victim of that weird like late '90s humor. It's kind of like I think of Earthworm Jim, and I think of like Toe Jam and Earl, but I also think of like comic book series like The Tick and stuff, where like it's just
Yeah.
weird and quirky and was great at the time, but like it does not translate. Um, I agree with you. I think Earthworm Jim should be like one of the most like people think about Crash Bandicoot more than they think about Earthworm Jim, but like Earthworm Jim is a way better character than Crash Bandicoot.
I couldn't even imagine Earthworm Jim now, too. If they created a game, like it would still be weird and fun. And people still like weird and fun. They just don't like Earthworm Jim weird and fun. I don't understand it.
You need an Earthworm Jim battle royale. This is why this isn't popping.
Oh my God. Just a bunch of insects and you just run around tender, tender, tender.
Um, I think one that flew under the radar, massively because I'm not sure. I think it actually got like its own like release finally. It started out as a Half-Life mod, and there are a lot of Half-Life mods that started out and went on to become really legendary games like Counter Strike,
Mhm.
Team Fortress. These were all started out as mods, and now like they're some of the biggest franchises in gaming. There was this one game called Natural Selection that I was on too early in its development cycle. I played the early releases of it as a mod. It was um, the first of its kind, a hybrid like first person shooter RTS game
Huh.
where you would have one person who was like the commander and they would play the game like an RTS. And then
Mhm.
like the other 16 people on your team would kind of be like the worker drones, but they would also play it like a first person shooter. So the commander would set down like a kinda like the command center for you to build, so you'd have to go there, click on it, and build it, but then like aliens could come and attack you, which is it's a multiplayer game. So like the aliens were player based too. It was like this fantastic game that
Yeah, it
I was
sounds
like,
interesting.
this is it. This is the next thing. This is like the new wave. And they had all these iconic elements, like the Space Marines had their own look. I remember like the aliens, they had this thing called the Onos, which were like elephants, these like bat looking things that flew around. Like they had like kind of cutesy looking aliens when you started off. Like it had all these elements of this. I'm like, this is amazing. And if you go look it up, they have a natural selection too that looks really pretty, but like Valve never picked them up, so they never got the heat.
Yeah.
I thought this was gonna be like the most legendary series, like the first hybrid game that actually like works and makes the concept work. Um, and no one knows about it.
Yeah. I didn't know about it. This is the first time I'm hearing about it. And it actually does sound like a concept to a game that could come out now and do well.
Mhm.
We just don't know. You know what it is? They just need a new marketing manager. They need a new marketing people. That's it. These are the most iconic games. We just found them. It's an Earthworm Jim reboot and Natural Selection 3 because 2 didn't do it. They got to come out. They need better marketing.
Yes.
They need Fortnite behind it. Fortnite. We talked about Fortnite marketing in the past. They just need that.
Maybe they need to hire Red Bull's marketing manager because they seem to find people our age and like market to them. We're like, oh yeah, Red Bull, this is a great article, bro. This is great. I love talking about iconic weapons. Yes. Yes. Praise hands.
Yep.
All right. That's gonna do it. Episode 74 of the Backspace Nomads. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. If you're watching this on YouTube and you like the video, make sure to drop a like, give a subscription to the channel so you can come back next week. Audio listeners, make sure you drop that 5-star review, leave comments in the section below. We'll see you guys next week for episode 75 of the Backspace Nomads Podcast. Bye, everybody.
See ya.